Good day, everyone! Hi, grade 3. I'm teacher Steph. So, now I will discuss all about interpreting graphs, tables, and pictographs. So, before we start, let us read our learning targets and core values.
So, our learning targets are: I can identify the different types of graphs. I can interpret the graph using the data. And our core values is service. The learners will become assets and productive members of school, community, and the country.
So, when we use graphs, tables, and pictographs to easy for us to interpret, compare, and contrast the large amount of data. So, let us start with the graph.
Graph. It is a diagram that represents the variation of a variable in comparison with that one or more other variables.
When we say graph, it also known as charts, where the people able to use this to compare different kinds of data or information.
There are different types of graphs: the bar graph, line graph, or pie graph. So here's the parts of a graph: the title, the scale, and the labels of categories.
As you can see on the part of the graph, on the upper part of the graph is the title. So on the left side of the graph, as you can see the numbers on your screen, it was what we call the scale. Scale is represented by the numbers or represents by the number to show how many, and on the below part or the bottom part of the graph is the labels or category, which tells us what is the bar stands for. Now, as you can see on your screen, I have an example of the bar graph. So now, let us interpret the bar graph by answering these questions. So, number 1, what is the title of the graph? Number 2, what sports is the most favorite of these students? Number 3, what sports is the second choice? Number 4, what is the total number of students who like basketball, soccer, and softball? So now, let, let us proceed to the tables.
Tables, a systematic arrangement of data usually in rows and in columns.
So when we say tables, it is arrangement of data in rows and columns, which it's usually used in communication, research, and data analysis.
So, here's the parts of the table. The first one is a category. As you can see, inside the category is the student name, the name of the subjects. And then the second part of the table is the column, where it is on the vertical line of the table. And the last part of the table is the rows, which is in the horizontal line.
Let us have the activity about the table. So as you can see, I have here an example table on your screen. So now let us interpret this table by answering my questions. Okay, so now the first question is, how many male participants in track and field? How about female? Number 2, what sport has the most number of participants? Number 3, what sport has the least number of participants? Lastly, number 4, can you give me the possible title for this table?
Pictograph. It is a diagram representing statistical data by pictorial forms.
So, when we say pictograph, it is the frequency of data or information which using symbols or images that are relevant to the categories, labels, or topic.
So here's the parts of a pictograph. The first one is the title, which you can see on the upper part of the images. On the left side is the labels, which is the categories of the images of or in the pictograph. And the last one is the key, which is the representation of each images.
So, now I have here a example of a pictogram. So, now let us interpret this pictograph by answering my questions. So, my first question is, what is the title of the pictograph? Number 2, how many ice creams sold on Friday? How about Wednesday? Number 3, how many ice creams sold from Monday to Friday? So, in summary of this topic, we interpret graphs, tables, and pictographs by looking at the data or information on it, which is start from the title, the labels, or in categories, or it in their representation.
So now let's have an activity. So as you can see on your screen, the direction is use the graph to answer the following question. So here's the questions. What is being compared in the graph? Second, how many pupils watch the cartoons? Third, which TV shows are mostly watched by the pupil? Fourth, which TV shows are least watched by the pupils? So, our learning targets are I can identify the different types of graphs. I can interpret the graph using the data.